Let's get back to learning. Everyone, if there's an argument not for the sake of heaven, that means people care for themselves, their honor, their self-progress, and their own benefit. Okay? This is the case of Korach. We have at the beginning of our Parsha 3 levels of people. We have Korach, and he's interested in the Kuhuna, the priesthood, the high priesthood. And we explained why, because he thinks he's in line after Amram's son, Moshe, who received a great job. He thinks he should receive the Kohen Gadol. And then we have Datan, Aviran, and On ben Pelet from the tribe of Reuven. But each of them were firstborn. And what they're arguing is that, Reuven, our ancestral father, he was really the Bechor. And he should really be the king-like position. Or he should have the position of the priesthood because he's the Bechor. And therefore they're complaining that the Bechor, the firstborn right, was taken away from and given to which tribe? To have a double portion? Yosef, Menachem, and Ephraim. That's regarding the Datan, Aviram, and On ben Pelet. Now the 250 people that joined as well, some of them, or many of them, were princes, like you said before. And they're claiming that the priesthood should not be given to one tribe, but it should be given to princes, leaders. That's the 3-dimensioned argument here against Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, we're going to make it clear to ourselves that the Mishnah calls an argument which is not for the sake of heaven, it calls it Machloket Korach v'Moshe? No. You would think 2 sides, the opponents of the argument, that would be the title of the difference of opinion. But the Mishnah categorizes it and calls it Machloket Korach v'Adato. And the answer, why it's not called Machloket Korach against Moshe, will be clear, because this group of Korach, Datan, Aviram, 250 people, each of them are aspiring for honor, greatness. Give us honor. And maybe if they undermined the existing hierarchy of the Jewish people, if they can throw a coup d'etat and get rid of Moshe, then maybe each group will ascertain their request. Okay? Now, let's go to what they think, which we understand as wrongly. They said at the beginning of the Parsha, in verse, which was it? Kol ha'edah kulam kedoshim. Pasuk Gimel. Kol ha'edah kulam kedoshim. They did not say that Kol ha'edah, the entire group, is kedosha. The difference between that the Eidah is kedosha or everyone in the Eidah are kedoshim, they're standing behind the flag of individualism, individuality. Kulam kedoshim. They're destroying the sense of klaliyut, of collectivism. Remember, God tells Moshe Rabbeinu at Sinai, Vatem tiyuli mamlechet, you shall be a kingdom of priests, v'goy kadosh. And later, Becha b'char Hashem Elokecha liyot lo am segula. He chose you, your nation, the treasured nation. So here we can see that they are trying to dismantle the collectivism, the nationhood, the holiness of the group. We're all Kedoshim, each and every one of us. Why should there be a different hierarchy? We should have been chosen. And therefore, we notice in verse 14, which we have not read, after Datan and Aviram, Datan and Aviram refused the offer to go to Moshe, which all of you said is disobedient. When they say we're not coming, but not only are we not coming, okay, And they complained that you didn't take us. You took us out of an Eretz, Zavat Chalav Udvash. Mitzrayim in their eyes is
Ego. What is it?
equality of lands. Mitzrayim is also Eretz, Zavat Chalav Udvash, just like. And you didn't bring us to Eretz Yisrael. Who are they accusing?
Hashem.
They're accusing Moshe Rabbeinu here in verse 14. Aflo el eretz zavat chalav udvash havioto. You didn't bring us to a land of milk and honey. Vatiten lanu. And what have you given us? You haven't brought us an inheritance of fields and vineyards. And they said, we're not going to come up to you. Let's all see now the response of Moshe. And remember, the Torah often shares with us, yes, this divine book, this holy book, the feelings, the emotions of our leaders. They too are human beings, no matter how great they are. And here we have a difficult expression in Pasuk Tedvav, and I'll get to your question in a moment, Moshe. Vayichar leMoshe me'od. We have a problem with this word, Vayichar, because usually the word Vayichar leMoshe means anger. However, the Tanchuma Midrash, okay? The Tanchuma Midrash, and Rashi brings this Tanchuma Midrash, that after this double refusal, you notice they refuse twice. They say first, no, we're not coming up, and then they explain, you took us out of a land of flowing milk and honey, you haven't brought us to a milk. After this double refusal, when they say no, not a second time, in other words, Moshe is saying, let's sit down and talk. I'm calling the time. Let's sit down and talk. Let's make shalom. Let me hear what your claims are, and then I'll explain to you what I claim. Is that the proper way to approach this? Yes or no? Moshe is asking, let's sit down and talk. Is that the proper way to approach an argument?
Yes.
Obviously. And they're saying twice. What? Which words? Lo na'aleh. Wow. Here, right? Only here, and not before. Could it be that Moshe realizes the rebellion is about to take place? And when he hears it, we learn for the first time, Chara apo vayichar af. But the Midrash says that vayichar here does not mean anger. Rashi brings the Midrash and he says, you see the three words? Nitzta'er ad. Do you see it? What are the three words? Nitzta'er ad lima'od. The reply of Moshe Rabbeinu in Pasuk Tedvav, verse 15, he says, "Vayichar leMoshe ma'od nitzta'er." He's so sorry. Just like a person, let's say Yosef and Eitan have an argument about a truth that they think. Yosef says Aleph, Eitan says Bet. Look, if they're arguing, that's a healthy situation. But if they're not willing to sit with me and tell me what they want to say, it causes Moshe such sorrow, such agony. There's nothing greater than that. If you're having a machloket, a difference of opinion with someone, and your opponent does not want to do what? To sit and talk with you, to hear your claim, and he hears your claim, then is there or not hope for peace?
No.
There's no hope for peace. It's such applicable today to the political argument that we have today in our nation, that we're trying to open up channels of speaking, and we're calling out of love in our brothers. One of the great rabbis, Rabbi Ganz is his name. His son is the head of the Binyamin region of council settlements. The father is a great Talmid Chacham. More than 25 years ago in Tel Aviv, he built a yeshiva. I sponsor the yeshiva. I give even money every month. I think it's a great idea in the middle heart of Tel Aviv. So many good Jews there that are going astray and not getting Jewish education. He opened up this yeshiva. And with the political argument that's been going on recently, there's been some animosity or antagonism against the yeshiva. The yeshiva is doing great work in the community. Believe it or not, bar mitzvah programs, you need help, Brit Milah, any of these matters, they're trying to help. And they're very non-coercive, very full of love. You know, these famous protests that they have on Motzei Shabbat, which the left-wing press is blowing up, that there are tens of thousands coming every Saturday night. But
Hundreds of thousands.
the press, right? They say even last night. And I heard otherwise, just a collection of a few thousand people. They're democracy. But the press has an agenda. Thank you, Moshe. I heard a shur from the Rav Gans. Their kids go out in the streets where they are walking on Kaplan Street to do their protest. They come with signs, you can use our apartment for the bathrooms if you need. And they come giving out cakes. And they're honoring the people. And some people, a few, not most of them, were very antagonistic to these kids. As if they have hatred, God forbid, the terrible things that happened in these past few months on Motzei Shabbat, where we're trying to show unconditional love, which is the truth. They're our brothers. And some of them claim, no, you're not our brothers, you're not our brothers. Ridiculous. It's not an agenda that they have against legislative reforms, and they don't want these people in office. It's terrible. Not most of them, I'm not saying most of them are like that. But here, do you sense what Moshe feels? They don't want to talk with me. They don't want to come up with me. Then there's no chance for peace. There's no chance for peace. Now, let's go to the next part. The next part is, who are these rebels? Let's take the 250 people. Other than the explanation of the Netziv of Volozhin, he calls that these 250 people are super tzaddikim. And they saw that their inability to serve as Kohanim in the holy temple, the Mishkan, and bring ketoret, and bring sacrifices, for them it's like stifling. That's how they feel intellectually and emotionally. And they can hardly stop themselves. Now, they want to serve God so much. That's how the Netziv of Volozhin explains. But other than him, if we look at the Ibn Ezra, okay, in his wonderful commentary, okay, according to him, this band of 250 people contains the following. Have you ever seen Jews grumbling and complaining? Not you, Aaron.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this group of 250 people contains the best grumblers, the people that have less content of all kinds. Rav Nechama Leibovitz, in a great work on the studies of the Parshat. I'm going to bring the Ramban that you bought. That's yours, right?
Yes.
That you brought for yourself. She explains, according to Chazal, a lot of these 250 people were Leviim who wanted to be appointed, like I said before, like a bit of the opinion of Netziv. They wanted to be Kohanim. Some of them were from Reuven, who considered, wow, we were deprived of our birthright, and was transferred to the tribe of Yosef, now Menachem and Ephraim, of a double portion. According to the Ibn Ezra, some of these 200 people even suspected Yoshua from the tribe of
Ephraim
as using his influence to favor his own tribe over others. Do you remember in Parshat Balotcha, when Moshe Rabbeinu asked for help and God appointed 70 leaders, or 70 were appointed, and they received prophecy, and several of them heard the prophecy? Rashi brought the name of our sages. Who's going to die?
Everyone.
Moshe will die, and?
The 10 spies.
And who will lead the nation in? Yoshua. That was a prophecy. And Moshe doesn't bother. I'll fight that everyone be prophets, he said. Remember? Now, part of these 250, they're accusing Yoshua that he's politically showing favor to the tribe of Yosef, Menachem and Ephraim, right? Over the others. And then, part of the 250 are those real firstborn who felt that they lost the privilege of the priesthood taken away from them and granted to the Leviim because of the sin of the Chet Egel. Wow. So right now, there's a flame of discontent. And Nachmanides, the Ramban, says this Parsha Korach comes right after the sin of Chet Ragun, the sin of the spies. And he says the following, and I'm quoting now the Ramban here. Were anyone to have questioned Moshe's authority at any other time, if the sin of the spies had not yet happened, Everyone respected Moshe. If someone would come up with Moshe, they'd probably take stones and throw it at him, right? They'd take some people like you, right? Take the law into their own hand. How dare you go up against Moshe? Everyone loved Moshe Rabbeinu. He was their ardent leader. Everyone obeyed him. But now, Parshat Korach comes right after the sin of Chet Meraglim. What's decreed upon regarding this entire generation?
We're gonna die in the desert.
They're all going to die. Today, next year, until how many years?
40
years. Consequently, the Ramban says, Korach put up with the high office filled by Aaron, the firstborn with the lofty station of the Levium and all the Moshe deeds. But that's until now. But now that we arrive to Paran, the Paran desert, Kadesh Barnea, okay, and there we burnt. We saw the complaints of the people that lust and desires, and the Asaf Suf, and the people that were burnt by God because they complained against God, and the sin of the spies happened, and the princes of the tribes were killed by the plague. Yes? All 10 of them died. And now the people are condemned to die here in the Midbar. Now the people are bitter. And some began to doubt the leadership, Ramban says, of Moshe's leadership. Who is an opportunist? Korach. He sees that the generation by large is so filled with discontent, so disappointed, and they're maybe ready to be reactionary and go up against even Moshe Rabbeinu. Here he starts his mutiny. And this was the significance of the reference of them to be brought to be killed in the wilderness. In other words, Korach is going to take advantage of the discontent of good parts of the nation, and he's going to channel all this for his own benefit. Okay? But the Torah does not afford us the details of the way he went around fanning his discontent. He started going around everyone. To the extent that Chazal bring the first chapter of Psalms. Ashrei ha'ish asher lo halach ba'atzat reshaim, chapter 1, verse 1. Happy is the man that what? That didn't walk in the counsel of the wicked. Uvederach hata'im lo amad, and the way of the sinners he didn't stand. Uvemoshav leitzim, here's it, the third term of that chapter 1 of Psalms. And the seat of scorners had he not sat. The Midrash tells us this is Korach. He made the scorn of Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron. What did he do? The Midrash says, I'm leaving the Pshat. Usually I don't leave the Pshat and share Midrash, but for this I want to end today's share with this. He assembled all the congregation. Like it says, he gathered the people against them. He began to speak to them words of scorn, saying, there was once a widow in my neighborhood, and she had 2 fatherless daughters in one field. And when she came to plow, Moshe said to her, you're not allowed to plow with an ox and an ass together. When she came to sow, Moshe Rabbeinu said to her, you shall not sow your field with different seeds. What is that called?
Shatnez. No, shatnez is
That's in clothing.
Yeah, the clothing.
Kil ayim. Repeat it.
Kil
And when she was gleaning, doing the leket of the forgotten sheaf in the corner of the field for the poor, Moshe says you have to leave that for who? For the poor. And then Moshe says you have to give trumot and masrot, tithes to the priestly. And then the second tithe. And she justified heaven's pronouncement and gave him. What does this poor woman do? She went and sold a field and purchased with the proceeds 2 lambs to clothe herself, and from it sharing and enjoying its products. And soon they gave birth. And then Aaron came and said, give me the firstborn. You see the demagogia that the Midrash is playing right here? Every firstborn of the herd and flock, the male one, should be consecrated to Hashem through the Kohanim. And then she justified heaven's pronouncement and gave him the offspring. Then the time came for sharing, taking off the wool of the lambs and the goats. And then what did Moshe come and say? What did Aaron come and say? What mitzvah is there in sharing the hair? The first. The first of the sharing is to be given to the Kohen. And the first of your grain, the wine and the oil, you shall give to the Kohen. The Midrash ends and says this. Therefore she said, since I have no more strength to withstand this man, I shall slaughter them and eat them. And as soon as she slaughtered them, Aaron came and said, give me the shoulder, the two cheeks, and the lechayim. It belongs to the Kohen. When you do a regular mundane ala esh mangal. And then she said, even after I slaughtered them, I'm not going to deliver from his hand. Let them be forbidden. I'm going to make them holy. No one can touch it. It belongs to the Kohanim if you make it holy. Gentlemen, this midrash shows the demagogic approach that Korach is going around teaching that this Moshe is no good. He's taking away everything from you and so on and so forth. We'll continue from this point tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem. It wasn't